Good morning. May I have your attention, please? If you have not already done so, please sign in and please use this time to silence all cell phones. Thank you.
Good morning. This meeting of the Louisiana Tax Commission is hereby called to order. This meeting is being held at the offices of the Louisiana Tax Commission at 1051 North 3rd Street, Suite 225, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. The date is Wednesday, April 5th, 2023, and the time is 10:01 a.m. Please call the roll.
Chairman Shahardi,
Here.
Commissioner Potier,
Here.
Commissioner Jeffers,
Here.
Commissioner Vercher,
Here.
Commissioner Wood,
Here.
5 present and a quorum.
Thank you. There being, there being no old business to take up at this time, I'll accept the motion for the approval of the March 15th, 2023 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
move that we approve the minutes of the March 15th, 2023 meeting.
We have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. I'll now accept the motion regarding the March 29th, 2023 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the March 29th, 2023 minutes.
We have a motion for the approval of the minutes of March 29th, 2023. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider change orders.
Chandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today, we have a total of 734 change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 623. We'll place 37 in pending status and defer 70 and deny 4. Reasons for rejection: 2 in Jefferson Parish for not providing an occupancy date when applying a homestead exemption, 1 in Calcasieu, and 1 in St. Tammany for adding an HEX and on a LLC. Reasons for deferral: 70 in Orleans represent a supplemental role. We would like to defer all change order requests from Orleans, which reference a supplemental role. The change order requests do not match the values on the approved supplemental role. Staff requests approval of these change orders.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I would move that we accept staff recommendations, approve 623 change orders, place 37 in pending status, defer 70, and deny 4 for the reasons given.
We have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider prior pending change orders.
Chandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today, we have a total of 87 prior pending change orders. Staff has reviewed those change orders and requests to approve 83 and keep 4 remaining in pending status. Staff requests approval of the prior pending change orders.
Have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move that we accept staff recommendations, approve 83 of the 87 prior pending change orders, place 4 back in pending status.
We have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider tax sale cancellations.
Chandrika Banks on behalf of the Louisiana Tax Commission. Today, we have a total of 4 tax sale cancellations, 3 in Lafourche Parish due to being sold in error, and 1 in Livingston Parish due to being sold in error. Staff is requesting approval of 4 tax sale cancellations.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move approval of 4 tax sale cancellations based on staff's recommendations, 3 in Lafourche Parish and 1 in Livingston Parish.
We have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? All right, there being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now move on to the appeal portion of our docket. I'm going to ask everyone who is planning on testifying this morning at the microphone to please stand up at your seat to be sworn in as a witness.
Fraser
Raise your right hand and I'll indicate to you individually to affirm the oath. You swear affirm testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Tad,
I do.
George,
I do.
Tanya,
I do.
Mark,
I do.
Reed,
I do.
Randy.
I do.
Thank you.
All right, the order that I have in front of me, will first bring up, item B as in boy, on today's docket. The appeal of NOLA 305 LLC versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22171-007. I'd ask the parties to come on up to the microphone. One, the assessor's office, the other. And just give us one moment before you begin. All right. Please be patient in front of us. We've got to sort them out. Started. All right, this is for appeal. I'll ask the taxpayer to please, state your name and testify.
Miles Granderson representing the appellant.
And please talk right into the microphone.
Miles Granderson representing the appellant. This one is probably fairly quick and straightforward on our end. The building was heavily damaged by several of the storms over the last few years. The building was gutted. The owner did not initially, a few years ago, report that to the assessors. The assessor had no way of knowing. Once that was done, the appraisal was kept, or the assessment was kept at the same level. We presented a fairly modest or conservative request, and
I'm not sure if y'all can hear me, but the hearing room is muted.
All
There
right,
we go. Okay, I didn't hear anything, but I'm sorry to interrupt. I wasn't sure where y'all were at, so. It's muted again.
Can you hear us now, Mark?
Yes, I can. I apologize.
Do a test on the witness mics again. Let us know if you hear us.
I can hear you now.
Yes, but you're not supposed to be able to hear me. I need you to hear the witnesses.
Okay, all right. It's muted. It's unmuted now.
Test. Test.
Yes, I can hear that.
all right, now let's. Mark on it.
Okay, I did appraise the property. It's located at, let's see where I apologize. Okay, 303 Barone Street. It's the subject property is 10-story vacant gutted office building shell structure located in the CBD. It's completely gutted due to storm damages. I did a cost approach on the subject property and determined that the improvement value was $4,398,000. And let's see. The land value, $284,500, and the improvement value, $4,113,500.
The photographs that are attached, the appraisal, show a building that appears to be gutted on the inside. Are those photos indicative of the building?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Thank you. All right. Any questions? All right, Mr. Jeffers, I believe you have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move on docket number 22-221 71-007 that the fair market value be set at the LTC staff appraisal, setting land at $284,500, improvements $4,113,500, for a total fair market value of $4,398,000.
Well, we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. Next appeal we'll consider is the appeal of Bullard Mall LLC versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22173-031. Can give us a moment to pull everything together. All right, again, this is a taxpayer appeal. So I'll ask the taxpayer representative to please go ahead.
Miles Granderson representing the appellant. Once again, this is one where we would agree with the appraiser. The circumstance of this property is that it is a long abandoned, or was a long abandoned former motel building. Prior to the assessment period of this year, the building had been adjudicated as blighted by the city of New Orleans, along with a demolition order by the city. We proposed that that should zero out the value for the building. We did, during open rolls period and attempt of negotiation with the assessor's office, offer a number less than zero at that point. However, that was not accepted, and shortly thereafter, the building was demolished last fall by the city pursuant to the demolition order, and we would accept the staff appraisal of a zero out of that building value.
When did the demolition take place?
In October.
And that was October of 22.
Correct.
Okay. Are there any questions? Let's hear from the assessor's office.
Yeah, there's a couple things. As far as that goes, the permit to demolish was on 10/30/2022. So I believe it was in December sometime that was actually demolished. The other issue with this is there were two parcels. There was a hotel and there was the Sassafras restaurant, which is still standing to this day. I mean, so I'm not sure if they plan on renovating this or if this will also be demolished. But the restaurant itself is at 3510 square feet. Like I said, as far as February of 2023, the building was still standing. So what the assessor's office did is just put basically minimal value, and we try to settle this for what is still remaining. So we offered to settle at total land and improvements at $792,600. But we just feel that since there still is improvements on the property, that a land only is not fair.
They were on the same assessment number?
They're on the same assessment number, yes.
That's an operating restaurant, not
No,
blighted?
it's blighted. It's boarded up. But the building is still standing after the hotel was demolished.
It appears from our information that the taxpayer actually made an original request of $387,000 approximately.
Correct.
Was that just, and maybe I should be asking the taxpayer, but was that just for the restaurant?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure what they recommended, but
Mr.
our
Branson, can you answer that? The nominal request that y'all made, was that because of the knowledge that the restaurant would not also be torn down?
No, at least not entirely. It was largely based on the concept of, we did not expect that at that time. We'd had conversations informally with the assessor's office, and because there was still, everything was still there physically at the time, the city had not begun demolition yet, that there was an understanding that nothing below some value of that building would be accepted. We looked at different ways of that an appraisal or assessment might come from a blighted building, one of which is the value to either repair the building, bring it to code, or to demolish the building. The best price we were able to get on that was a certain number in the 300,000. So we subtracted that number out, and that's how we ended with that. But again, that was a conservative effort to attempt to reach an agreement up front. But again, also soon thereafter, the city demolished. I would have to check in my notes here. I've got that the demolition began on October 13th, but Mr. Makita may be correct that that's not accurate. There were a couple of news stories on it, so we can certainly track that, that date.
And did the city actually do the demolition, or did your client?
The city did the demolition. In fact, the mayor held a press conference in front of it.
So there had to be some decision made then as to what was being torn down.
Right, so it was a former La Quinta Inn at some point pre-Katrina. So the entire former La Quinta Inn was torn down. And then there's a vacant restaurant, that structure that was there that still remains vacant but standing. And we would certainly expect that there would be perhaps a nominal appraisal of that structure, but we would not expect there to be any appraisal amount or any assessment amount as to the demolished building.
On the assessor's point too, we kind of had to take what was standing there in August. So there was a minimal value of the 340 minimal value for the hotel structure, but most of it was just the actual restaurant that's still there.
Okay, from the assessor's office, the value you're requesting is 792,000.
792,600, yes.
600. Now, the assessor's office has no issue with what was demolished.
No,
And so that's zero as far as you're concerned.
basically, yes.
Yeah, okay. So the question is the standing restaurant that appears to need extensive renovations if it were to be put back into commerce. Just photographs from the outside seem to indicate that. And that's where the contention is. I mean, do you all, from the taxpayer standpoint, are you in agreement that we should have some value on that building?
Yes, we would certainly accept, some modest value to that building.
Because if you were to take the assessor's office position of 792,600, subtract the land, which is what, 450,000, rough round numbers for right now, and that would leave a value of roughly 340,000 total.
342,600.
For that building. Is that a number that the taxpayer can agree to?
We would suggest that building in its current state is worth far less than that.
Okay, how many square feet in that building?
3,510.
Gotta do my math, so just give me a moment. What I'm trying to figure out is what dollar per square foot that represents.
For what we're requesting, it's about $6.75, approximately $6.76 a square foot.
It's 30.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was an error. Disregard what I said. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry.
Is it 97, 9760, 9761?
Yes.
Am I waiting on you guys or you're waiting on me?
Oh, no.
I'm showing $97.60. Is that,
Say that again, Ms. Wood.
if you take 342,600 divided by the 3,510 square feet, it's $97.60 per square foot.
And that seems a little high for the gutted building.
I think I actually misunderstood you, Chairman Shardy, and I think what we're actually doing is taking part of the hotel building. I misunderstood what was left in August for the hotel building and the restaurant. So I apologize if I misunderstood.
Okay, so let me ask the question again. Is the assessor's office objecting to
I guess
not
a zero
valuing
building
what
value
was
for the
there, it's been
hotel
demolished,
for
it's-
this
it's
year,
gone.
yes.
The only thing that appears to be left is the restaurant.
Correct, now, as of now, but for our tax year 2024, actually in August, a hotel was still standing.
So they demolished the building. You can't use the building. It's a devastated form, and we still want to tax it. Is that correct?
Well, it feels like we don't have the right to exempt property when it's still there.
But it should be valued in its extremely damaged condition.
Correct.
Mr. Granderson, what, you said a minute ago, a nominal value. Can you give us a number?
So I guess, so if I was referring to the restaurant building, and it sounds like, so I don't know if that calculation at the assessor's office, I haven't seen a broken down calculation, but if that calculation includes a breakdown from the restaurant to the building, I'd be interested in hearing that. As far as
Well,
the,
originally, you made a request of $387,000 at some point in time.
sure. So,
So, there was some calculation that was done to get to that number.
so,
So I'm asking you, would, break that number down there?
Yeah.
Maybe would be a better way to ask the question.
yeah, so that number, that 387 came from what the assessor's value on the building was initially, subtracting out what we'd gotten as a best case demolition cost for the building, and that was remaining value. Now, it doesn't seem like a perfect way to do it, but often with blighted buildings, sometimes it's the repair value or the demo value that's subtracted out. So it perhaps isn't the best way, perhaps may seem like somewhat of a random way, but it's what we did. We knew upfront in initial discussions that the assessor's office would not accept a zeroed out value, when at that time, what we had a blight judgment from the city prior to August, and we had a demolition order from the city prior to August. So we had the city saying this building needed to be torn down and was ostensibly valueless or of negative value even to the city. So we knew that, but we also knew the assessor's office wouldn't accept it. So what I was attempting to do at that time was to make an offer that I thought would be conservative and I thought would be accepted. As it wasn't, we played out the process, one, because we're here, so may as well do it in its the full respect. And then two, because it's one thing to have the argument that the city has said this is blighted and the city has said this needs to be demolished, and the city's put the demolition order out and has started the process for their demolition contractor to do something. It's another thing to have it actually down and demolished.
Can you tell me the state of the restaurant? Is it blighted? Is there a demolition order? What is the status of the restaurant?
There is not a demolition order on the restaurant. The city may have a code enforcement order on it, but there's not a demolition order on it.
What is your client, what is he gonna do with it? Do they have a plan?
They would like to find a tenant to lease it. Have not been able to do so yet.
Do they actually have it for lease and then the tenant do the improvement work? Or,
I think that that's his hope.
All right, the assessor's office, if I understand correctly, you offered to settle at 792,600.
Correct.
The taxpayer had, at least on the filing with the commission, requested a value on improvements of $387,872. Is that still a number that the taxpayers comfortable with?
Um,
That's the number you requested.
Right, I think now that the building's actually demolished in two, now that we are actually here and no longer trying to, sometimes settlement offers that are made are not what you think is best or the fairest, but something you're willing to accept to avoid further process. So when the further process comes forward, I think at that point you're asking for what you think it should be, and so that number is not what we think it should be. So no.
Okay,
Mr.
give
Chairman,
us something
I'd
concrete.
like to hear Fraser on why he didn't give it any value.
Well, we can do that. Let's go ahead and hear from Mr. Gillespie.
Okay, Mark Gillespie with Louisiana Tax Commission, did appraise the property, under appeal. The abandoned hotel structure was demolished. I was not aware of the restaurant that's associated with the parcel. Looking at the parcel on the assessor's website and studying it, I didn't completely overlook that. In fact, at the time of inspection, if you look at the photographs in my report, on the west side of the property, there was a fence between a chain link fence between the demolished section and that other building. So I completely overlooked it. So anyway, I did a market approach on the land and determined the market value to be $454,500, which is roughly $3 a square foot.
So you did not look at the standing restaurant, is that correct?
No, sir. In fact, I just pulled up the assessor's website and looked at the parcel from an aerial view, and you can see the restaurant, but I apologize, I overlooked that.
So you really can't give us an opinion with regard to,
No, sir, because I'm just finding out now that I overlooked it. I had no idea. So,
well, we have nothing. I don't think we have anything from the assessor.
How did the assessor's office arrive at the original improvement value of $725,000?
Truthfully, how the original one, I'm not sure. I believe it was a previous appeal for that. Then we just basically put a small, like $2 maybe square foot for the hotel, then approximately $35 for the restaurant. For the offer we made at the 342, which again was still lower than what the taxpayer requested.
I'm trying to look back to see a little bit further back in history, see what the breakdown was when you had it assessed at 725. I would think you had more of the value on the hotel, but I'm just guessing. I don't know that.
Be honest, I don't know the breakdown from the previous number.
Mr. Grant, can you help me out there?
Well, I wanted to see if I understood something correctly. Did say that the number that was in the settlement offer was comprised of $35 a square foot for the restaurant and $2 for the hotel building?
He was asking about where the 725,
And how many square feet was the restaurant?
So if that's where it comes
If
from,
he's at 122, you're okay with that?
we would be okay with that.
Okay, that's where I was trying to get to.
So what numbers are we okay with?
If you go back in time and see what the, assessor's office had, as I understand it, the restaurant on their books was roughly $35
Well,
a square foot.
that was the
That
offer.
That was an offer.
Yeah.
That was an offer. And so, with that, then we're looking at $122,850 as a nominal value for the improvement of the restaurant. And the taxpayers' representative is saying that they're in agreement with that. They would be okay with that. Am I putting words in either party's mouth?
That's correct.
Are you okay with that?
I'll be, what I got approved for by the assessor was at 342. So like, if the commission feels that that is a fair number, then I would, in my case, I would ask that you rule on that number.
Mr. Chairman,
Do we have any other questions? All right, Mr. Virtue, if you have a motion, please go ahead.
yes, I would move on, docket 22-22173-031, that the fair market value be, of land be set at $450,000. Fair market value of improvements be set at $122,850, for a total value of $572,850.
We have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. All right, again, it's a taxpayer appeal, so we'll ask the taxpayer representative to go forward.
Miles Granderson representing the appellant. This property is a theater. It is the Civic Theater located in downtown New Orleans. It is my thought and that this theater has two fairly on-point comps, probably the most being the Joy Theater and the other being the Orpheum Theater, both of which are in downtown, both of which are in easy walking distance to this property. And they are indeed theaters. In doing those comps, looking at the footprints of the building, if we were to use the comp of the Joy Theater, which is more conservative than that of the Orpheum Theater, that is our initial requested value. And that's how we arrived at that initial requested value of $638,442 for the building, with no change requested to the land value. So that remains our request. I will note that the appraiser used the income approach. As an aside, I'll also note that this property has been subject to prior appeal before this commission. I was not personally involved with that, but it has indeed been. I do believe that the value that the assessor went with is the result of what the prior commission ruling was. Now that was interrupted by 2 years of what I believe are what I think are COVID adjustments before it came back up to what this year's assessment was. So with that as a little bit of background, well, note next is that, so one, again, I would start with the comps. So that is our request, and it is based on that. We're going to be using the more conservative of the two comps of the Joy. Two, if we are to use the income approach, I would note that the operating income, they used old 2017 numbers. I haven't seen them, but I would presume they are accurate for the appraisal. Using the operating figures for 2022, the net operating income was 64,598, I believe. That included I will say that included a expense of a 30,000 loan to another business. So if we took that out, it would still be 94,598. That would, using the same cap rate as used in the appraisal, that would get us to 884,000 in value. Again, in total value, again, we are requesting no change to the land value. So the land value stays, and then the just the improvement value at the 638,442, which matches the per square foot of the Joy. Lastly, I guess I'll note this as well too. In the Board of Review meeting, I think there was some confusion about that per square foot for the Joy. What and how that worked out. What I've noticed here is that it may have been a matter of confusion between because these are theater structures, and so they may appear to be a 3-story structure from the outside, but it's a single story and a balcony. And there may be, at least it would seem to me, maybe a discrepancy between how that was done. But if we take the footprint of each building and break that out to a per square foot, then all we're looking to do is match the Joy for our assessment. And then I said lastly, but this one really will be lastly, is when we're talking about income approach, I think we all probably have an understanding that for a indoor live entertainment venue, still in a somewhat post-pandemic environment, it's probably not likely that there's an increase or even stable income environment from what we would have seen in 2019, with lower revenues, but also higher cost of labor, higher costs of everything else that goes into it. So
You mentioned the Joy Theater, and what was the other one?
the Orpheum.
Now, did you submit to the commission these comps that you discussed?
Yeah,
We don't have,
they're in our cover letter that was submitted.
we don't have that.
Yes. Oh, but that's for one of our other matters. So, but it looks similar to that. We're on that should look like this one. I think that one. So that one is the first one, the 303 Barone, I think is that one. And then this one is the 533 Barone, which is this one. It may be that because they both are on Barone Street, that maybe the one got printed twice. Yeah, that's a version of it. Yeah.
All right, but this is not a copy of any acts of sale or anything involving these two entities, the Orpheum or the Joy Theater.
It's simply taking the numbers from the assessor's website.
So it's an equity argument, is that what you're saying?
Equity, comps, yes.
It's not, it's either equity, or you can be making an equity argument or a valuation argument. I mean, I don't really see anything.
Well, each-
I'm having trouble.
Each of these buildings, each of these two had reductions year over year. And it had been, you know, when you presume or assume, sometimes you're going a step too far, but it had been my assumption there that that was in further consideration of the industry that they're in, the types of buildings they are, the purpose they serve, and being indoor amusement and still a post-pandemic environment and still struggling to make ends meet. So that had been expressly done industry-wide over several industries in the 2 prior years. So this consideration, to me, appeared to be further consideration of that for the particular industry.
Have you submitted any photographs of the interior of the property?
Have not, but as the appraiser notes in here, we're not making a claim that the property has changed or gotten worse in its physical state.
You're asking for a final value of $2,202,342, is that correct?
That is the number of the land plus the 638,442 building. Yes, yes, sir.
Unless there are any questions by the commissioners, I'd like to hear from our appraiser. Mr. Wallace, you want to tell us about your appraisal?
Yes, sir. George Wallace, Louisiana Tax Commission. This is a repeat appeal from 2019 and 2020. Appraised the property at 533 Barone.
Hey, Mr. Wallace, can you give us 1 moment? We're gonna let the the assessor's office speak, okay?
Okay.
Sorry about that.
See if in the assessor's office.
Hi, James McKee, Orleans Parish Assessors. Basically, what we're asking for is the previous ruling from the Louisiana Tax Commission at the $2,850,000. I believe what Mr. Granderson was doing is talking about an equity argument. I know the Joy Theater sold within the past few years, but they had a $10 and other consideration sales price, so we don't even truly know what that property sold for. And it appears that the $2,850,000 is lower than the tax commission appraisal.
And I think from the prior ruling, correct me if our information shows that y'all had it assessed at like 3.6 million.
Yes. $3,610,000.
All right, any other questions? All right, let's try to go back to Mr. Wallace.
Okay, George Wallace. I did appraise the property on December 8th of 2022. It had an undisputed land value of $1,563,900. I did a cost approach and it had a value of $3,275,000. An income approach at $2,928,000. And the final correlation, I went in between at $3 million for the improvement value of $1,436,100, land $1,563,900.
Hey, George.
Yes, sir.
When we made our prior ruling, I think we had asked you to make some adjustments to the cap rate. If my memory serves me correct, and that's how we got the value down a little bit.
I don't recall. I can't remember that far back. I can look through my notes, but I don't. The cap rate that I used was for a tier 2. Actually, it was we didn't have a theater cap rate, so I used the closest thing, a CBD hotel hospitality cap rate, which are the cap rates in that area. And we did they averaged 8%, and I pushed it up to 8.5%, which is still within the typical range from 6.8 to 9 for these type of properties.
And, I think this, warrants, in my opinion anyway, you know, the income approach is the best approach to use to value, the property. Do you feel like you had sufficient information to do that?
I feel like I did. I included a cost approach to set the upper limit, and to support the value from the income. And I didn't have any information from the market on the other theater sales that have occurred. So if I did, I would have analyzed them and included them, but I didn't have that information.
Well, the $3 million appraisal is in line with the prior ruling by the commission, you know. Are there other questions? Yes.
I guess just a few things. I would note that I would suspect that the cap rate between a hotel property and a theater are probably more than half a point apart, probably substantially more than half a point apart in reality. I did also search for cap rates for theaters and could not find them online. Although it's not my area of expertise, but I looked and could not find. One thing again to consider with is that these are purpose-built structures. They're not easily convertible. If you have a hotel and the whole hotel market dries up, but the multifamily market doesn't, you can convert them. In fact, many buildings that are built now are made to be flexible like that. With the theater, it is a theater, and that's all it is without substantial costly renovation. So I would proffer here that a comp to a hotel from a cap rate perspective probably is far removed from what it would really be. And we see, by the way, hotels being developed left and right in the CBD. We do not see new theaters being developed. And also, again, I believe that the income approach is based on the numbers from the last go around, which may be, or which different than what you would see in this modern or this current environment.
Any questions? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move on docket number 22-22171-006 that the fair market value be set at the Parish Board of Reviews.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. All right, who is is there a representative here for item C, private connection? Yes, okay, come on up to. All right. And just give us a moment. All right, we'll now take up item C on the docket. The appeal of private connection versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22171-012. All right, this is a taxpayer appeal, so we'll ask you to please identify yourself with the microphone and please go ahead and tell us about your appeal.
Good morning, excuse me,
Hold the
Douglas Ellis,
microphone closer to your mouth.
Douglas Ellis on behalf of Private Connection Property. This involves a parcel at 4307 Calliope Street in New Orleans. We were here 2 years ago on this property, and the LTC valuation was set at $560,000. The valuation by the assessor is back up to $1,035,100. There have been no changes to the building. In fact, the building was harmed by Ida, although most of those repairs have been affected. And so our issue is in essence, the doubling of the value of the building back to tax commission rulings when there have been no changes to the building.
Yeah, prior ruling was 560,000. The staff appraisal, 600,000. Have been any changes to the building at all?
There was some damage during Hurricane Ida that were repaired, but in essence, they're fairly old buildings that are, I wouldn't say gutted. There's electrical and whatnot in them, but it's primarily used for storing automobiles. It's not a finished building, but it's the same condition as it has been for many years.
For how long?
Many years. I'm not exactly sure. It's been, since I've been familiar with the property, the only substantive changes that were made were some electrical improvements. Putting in a separate electrical, there are two structures on the parcel, and putting in a separate meter box for each of the buildings. And other than that, nothing that I'm aware of that's substantially changed the condition of either building.
All right. Are there any questions? All right, let's hear from the assessor's office, and I'm interested is after the tax commission ruling, prior ruling, the assessor's office increased the value, basically double. Can you tell me the reason for that?
Good morning. This is David Mejia, the Orleans Parish Assessor's Office. Unfortunately, I do not know the reason why. I'm reviewing the notes, and it looks like we have agreed with the 600,000 prior valuation. The reasoning of why it rolled back is unknown to me. But we were at the tax commission's appraised value of 600,000, which is really in line with the prior ruling of 560. So I think we would be okay to live there. And I'm sorry, I can't answer the question. I'm not sure why it rolled back. I'm not sure if that was an error, or if there was a permit that was misread or something of some sort.
So if the commission were to reassert its prior ruling of 560,000, that's acceptable?
Yeah, we could live with that. Yes.
Okay, and that's what you're requesting, is that correct? The
That's correct.
560,000.
We'd be satisfied with that. I think that Dr. Alden made a lower request, but 560,000 is certainly reasonable and acceptable to us.
Okay, so we have an agreement that the value's $159,200 for land, $400,800 for improvements, for a total fair market value of 560,000. We both sides in agreement to that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, we have a consent agreement between the parties, so we don't need to hear from our appraiser. We do need a motion from the commission, though, as to set the value.
Mr. Chairman, I would move in the matter of docket number 2222171002, that we accept the agreed upon value between the parties of land, 159,200, improvements, 400,800, for a total fair market value of $560,000.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion, motion stands adopted. All right, you're gonna have to help me to pronounce this name. Humaniad? Oh, how do you pronounce that?
I believe that it's Jumaniad, and that is not us, although the property is us.
Okay.
So if you want to call it, I'll explain.
All right, next up is item D, the appeal of Juminet Investments versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 22-22171-013. Give us a moment. All right, it's a taxpayer appeal, so I'll ask you to go first.
Good morning, Douglas Ellis, on behalf of the appellant. This parcel is a vacant parcel of land. To be perfectly frank, our issue, we've been here before on this issue, and I think I know what, well, I shouldn't say that, but we've been here on this issue before. Our issue is not so much with the valuation of the property based on straight assessed values. Our issue is the fact that this is a property that we purchased at tax sale prior to 2007, that the city of New Orleans no longer has any records of the tax sales prior to 2007. And so we've been involved in extensive litigation on probably 15 or 20 properties where we are unable to prove the validity of our tax sale acquisition because the city has no records of having sent notice of the pending tax sales to the homeowners, to the tax sale debtors. Since that time, we've had issues in that this property, I believe, is in the name of Jumaniad Investments, that the assessor's office does not put the name of the tax sale purchaser on the tax sale deed. And so if in fact tax bills are received, they're received in the name of an entity other than the tax sale purchaser. And I understand it may or may not be within the purview of this committee, this commission. However, our position is that if we can't obtain any financing based on the title for the property, and banks won't lend us the money because, and we can't get title insurance policies, that the properties in essence have no value. And so we've requested on, I think, 8 of the appeals, 6 of the 8 appeals that we have today, that there be some consideration for the fact that we can't do anything with the property because of the title, not attributable to the assessor's office, but attributable to the city of New Orleans and their failure to maintain the tax sale.
Well, obviously, the property does have value simply because you, look, if the property was worthless, you'd walk away. You wouldn't spend good money after bad, and fight for something that's got no value. So that's what that's what our job is, to try to determine what that value is. Do we have any questions? All right, well, let's hear from the assessor's office.
Good morning again. This is David Mejia with the Assessor's Office. We are gonna just request to uphold our current land value, which is 13,800, which is the same value that was assigned by the tax commission, the board of review, in our original valuation. It seems like it's an issue outside of our, out of our purview, I guess, for the office. We're just looking at the land rate, the land value. I'm an appraiser, well, not a lawyer.
Don't brag. All right, do we have any questions? All right, well, let's hear from our appraiser, Mr. Bolton. Mr. Bolton?
We're ready for you, Ted.
Looking at.
Not in here.
Hey, Ted, can you hear us?
Hello. Okay. What do you, I mean, I don't even know which case it is. Hello.
All right. Can, Mr. Crosby, can you or somebody tell us about that appraisal that's familiar with it? Did Dad not answer his cell phone, or does he know why we can't?
Yeah, Mr. Bolton, or Mike Allen on behalf of the tax commission. Mr. Bolton performed an appraisal on this property. It's a residential piece of land. He came in with a value of 13,800.
And you're familiar with the appraisal?
I don't
You're-
have it
you're
with
his-
me at the moment, but yeah,
But, okay, and you're a supervisor, am I correct?
correct, yes.
Okay.
I have no sound at all.
All right, do we have any questions? Have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move on docket number 22-22171-013. Oh,
All right, we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? Now, there being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now take up item E. the appeal of Michael Courtney versus the Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review, docket number 22-22172-016. All right, taxpayer appeal, ask you to please go ahead.
Douglas Ellis on behalf of the appellant. If I may, Mr. Chairman, if the position of the commission is that our concern about the merchantability of title does not have an impact on the appraised value of the property, which is what I take from the matter that we just heard, then I can simplify the matters on 5 of the other appeals, assuming that the commission's position would be the same. And if that's the case, we don't have a problem with the valuation of the property based on strict appraisal rules. Again, our position is just because of the merchantability, it just sort of leaves us in a tough spot. That's
Sure,
all. But
I understand.
and we went through this process 2 years ago, so we sort of knew what to expect, but I guess it's a matter of principle with Dr. Alden. So, but at any rate, if that's the case, then if you'd like, I could give you the docket numbers and say that we will stipulate to the appraisals and the values, just reserving our concerns about the merchantability of the title.
All right, would you want to do that, or would you want to withdraw the appeal?
We just want it on the record as far as our objection
Okay.
is concerned.
All right, well, tell us what.
Okay, the matter, the
Ask the
matter that
assessor's
was,
office, please follow along to make sure if you have an objection to something, then please say so.
Yes.
All right,
okay,
go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask a question before we go there?
Sure.
Are all the issues the same, or are prior owners objecting, or has there?
we, yes and no, we've gotten objections from prior owners, and those are fairly simple. What's happening is there's sort of proliferated a group of people who are seeking out prior owners and acquiring quick claims from them and coming in and claiming that our tax sales are nullities due to the fact that the city is unable to prove the tax notices were sent to the tax sale debtors. And so we've had that problem on Galvez Street, which is the one that we're talking about right now. And we have it on one other appeal today, but we've lost probably 5 or 6 properties with adjudications that they're nullities because the validity of the tax sale can't be proven by the city.
So a person that gets a quit claim, they're coming and trying to hold you hostage?
Yes.
So
They
wouldn't
stand.
wouldn't it be easy then to settle that, those?
Well, we've tried, and we've done that a lot, and we settled a lot of them, and we've obtained some quick claims from the tax sale debtors as well. But I think Dr. Alden probably purchased about 40 properties in 2003 and 2004. So we've had a real mixed bag of how those things have been met, and some of them have just simply been redeemed, and some of them we filed suit to quiet tax title and have run into nullity claims from tax sale debtors. And so that's just the fight that we have to fight. And so in some instances, what people want for quick claims exceed the value of the property. In some instances, we're not able to locate the property, the tax sale debtors, or they're deceased and we don't know who their heirs are. But with the rulings of the court that these absolute nullities based on a lack of the Mennonite notices are unprescribable, then in perpetuity, those claims could come out of the woodwork 5, 10, 20, 30 years down the road. And that's our problem. Apparently, there was a law firm that was handling the tax sales for the city prior to 2007. And when that relationship was severed somehow, all the records didn't remain in the possession of the city. I don't know what the specifics are, but prior to September of 2007, the Department of Treasury cannot produce a single record of any notices on any tax sale conducted by the city from 2007 on back ad infinitum. And so all of our tax sales fall into that category, having been made in 2003 and 2004. So sort of up against a rock and a hard place and just looking for help wherever we might be able to find.
And you're wanting to get all this on the record, but I mean, I'd like to get on the record. I think the assessor's office is, doing their job. They're assessing the property and trying to get as close to market value as possible. I do understand the circumstance you're under though.
And I don't disagree with that insofar as these appraisals are concerned. We do think there should be some consideration for merchantability of title, but I know that that's not in the normal course and scope of what's done in appraising a property. So, it is what it is. So with that said, if I may, assuming no objection from the assessor or the commission, in this matter, we would submit it based on the arguments that I've made to the commission. So that's in 22-22-172-016. And I would make the same arguments and just put it on the record by adoption, I guess, in 22-221-72017, which is 1912 Bienville Street. In 22-221-77005, which is 8922 Willow Street. And
I'm sorry, repeat that last one.
22-221-77005. And 222, I'm sorry, that's a lot of twos. 22-221-76020. And I think that those are the 6 appeals of vacant property that that we would submit based on that argument and understanding the position of the commission.
I think
I
we
had
missed one.
I think 017, was that prior?
017, we withdrew,
Okay.
and 221-77006, we withdrew, which was another. No, we were doing 016. Yeah, and I think we had previously withdrawn 006. We were able to get quick claims on that property, and so the issue's not with the valuation.
And just for a matter of clarity and transparency with everyone, we would request a lower valuation, which is in some instances our valuation, not the tax commission's appraisal, which it came up higher than some of our
All right,
values in that.
let's, okay, for discussion purposes, item E, which
Agreed.
Mr. Chairman, I would move, on docket, number 22-22172-016, that the fair market value of the, property be set at land only, 12,200. And this
And-
was on agreement by the taxpayer, and the assessor's office.
with the taxpayers' argument regarding the merchantability of title. Thank you. It's repetitive from the prior appeals. All right, we have a motion, Mr. Bircher, is that correct? Okay, is there any objection? Any objection to the motion? Being no objection, the motion stands adopted. All right, item F is Roy Karuba versus the Orleans Parish Board of Review. and Assessor Errol Williams, docket number 22-22172-017.
Chairman Shahardi, Mr. Alden did have some prior ones. I'm not sure if that's yours, Mr. Ellis, on the Coliseum.
1912 Bienville Street,
Yeah. I think we-
22172-017, that is,
No, he mentioned the Coliseum property or the Karuba.
I don't think we have a Coliseum.
Yeah, I don't think he has the Coliseum. He has some other things still on the docket. But I don't think that's the gentleman. He has a few more things on the docket still.
Yes. That's Karuba.
So we have the.
The alternate entities, Karuba is the tax sale debtor and the tax bill remains in his name. But yes, that property.
Look, it's a typo on the. So that- Gotta help me out. So I apologize. I was looking at the docket number and it didn't match up to the address.
All right, so we want to, need a motion to, set the value at the, Board of Review value, is that correct? Yes, go ahead.
No.
We have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? Having no objection to the motion stands adopted. Next will be item Q. The appeal of AMHI versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22177-005.
Douglas Ellis on behalf of the Alden entities. Again, AMHI is a tax sale debtor.
All right, and what value are we agreeing to? The $11,300 value, is that correct?
Or was it the lower one? Is that what you wanted?
This is the lower one in our eyes. The tax commission was 11,600, so it was a few $100 higher.
So what value are we talking about?
11,300 is
All right. So do we have a motion on this one?
Yes, I would move in the matter of docket number 22-22177-005 that the fair market value for the land be set at 11,300.
All right, and then item P on the docket, the appeal of Marvin Faber versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22176-020.
Douglas Ellis on behalf of the appellant. Again, Mr. Faber is a tax sale debtor on that property. And subject to the arguments as to merchantability of title, we would submit the matter based on the appraisals offered by the assessor. I don't think there's been a prior tax appeal on this one.
So what value, we're looking at a value of what? 9,500?
9,500.
Okay. and the assessor's office?
Yes, that's what we show as well, 9,500.
Okay. All right, and again, with regard to each one of these that we're going through, item E, F, Q, and P, with the stipulation and argument regarding the merchantability of title.
Thank
to
you.
each one of those. All right, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move on docket 22-22176-020 that the fair market value be set at the parish board of review value of 9,500. Also note that the taxpayer and the assessor's office is in agreement with this value.
We have a motion. Any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. The one that we didn't follow through, that was item Q. Then, all right. Ms. Wood, would you please repeat your motion for item Q on the docket, which is the appeal of AMHI?
In the matter of docket number 2222177-005, I move that we set the fair market value at $11,300, land only, with the stipulations by the appellant.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any objection regarding item Q on the docket? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. All right, so where does that leave us now?
I have two more.
Item N and item O on the docket, side-by-side redevelopment and 2916 College Court.
Correct.
Okay, all right. Let's take up the appeal of side-by-side redevelopment versus Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22176-018.
Doug
go ahead.
Lascelles on behalf of Side by Side. We were here 2 years ago on this property and there was an LTC valuation of $260,000. The assessor increased the valuation to $638,800. There have been no changes to the property. It is a gutted structure. We're trying to get title cleared before we spend any money on renovating the property. But there have been no changes to the property that in our mind would warrant an increase from $260,000 to $638,800, which was, I think, the valuation prior to the our appeal in 2019.
So you're asking for a value of what?
I think that Dr. Alden asked for 160-170, but we would be satisfied with the prior LTC valuation of 260,000.
All right, thank you. Here from the
Yes.
assessor's office. Again, my question is, why is it being increased when there's apparently been no change in the property? Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct. For, and I don't like to assume, but, in reviewing this, preparing for the appeal, I did, come across an active listing for the property that's listed at 698,500. My assumption would be that that was, reviewed by someone, staff in the office. However, our independent analysis and looking at it more closely landed at 332,100, which is really within striking distance of the 260. So probably the 260 is probably, in the ballpark of a correct number.
You accept the $260,000 value?
I think that's close enough for me coming up with our independent analysis. Yes.
Okay, all right. All right, well, again, we have an agreement, I think, between the assessor
Yes.
and the taxpayer for a fair market value of $260,000. We have a motion with regard to that?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I move on docket number 22-22176-018 that the fair market value be set at the agreed upon value by the taxpayer and the assessor, setting land at 55,200, improvements 204,800, for a total fair market value of 260,000.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted. We'll now consider the appeal of 2916 College Court versus the Assessor Errol Williams and the Orleans Parish Board of Review. Docket number 22-22176-019. Give me one moment. All right, again, it's a taxpayer appeal, so ask you to please go ahead.
This is Douglas Ellis on behalf of 2916 College Court. This property is not a tax sale property, and it's our, the first appeal that we've had on this property. I believe that Dr. Alden had suggested a value of $72,850. To be perfectly honest with you, I'm not sure what the basis of that value is. It was appraised by the assessor's appraisals at 175, and it is, the appraised, the tax rate is at 183,010. We would agree with the 175. If I may say so, I had been having some conversations with Mr. Ardeno, with the assessor's office, and we just sort of ran out of time. I apologize for wasting the commission's time on what seems to be a fairly simple matter, but if we can agree to the 175 on that property, we would be satisfied with that.
That's the offer that I have written down as well.
So both parties are in agreement
Yes.
for a value of $175,000.
And again, I apologize for
Yes.
not getting this taken care of before we got here today.
That's not a problem. So both parties agreed to the $175,000 value.
Correct.
Yes. Yes.
All right, do we have an agreement between the parties for fair market value of $175,000? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I would move on docket, 22-22176-019, based on an agreement between the taxpayer, and the assessor's office. Land value be set at 19,600. Improvement value set at 155,400 for a total fair market value of 175,000.
All right, we have a motion. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion stands adopted.
That's it for me. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. I believe that concludes the docket for today. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So there being no other matters to come before, the commission today, I will accept the motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adjournment.
We have a motion to adjourn. Is there any objection to the motion? There being no objection to the motion is adopted. We stand adjourned at 11:36 a.m.